Good morning and welcome to the SitRep for today, which is the 11th of July, 2022. Thanks for joining me again today. Or if this is your first time for some reason, you've tripped up through the interwebs and stumbled across this, then that's a bit of a problem. I'm sorry about that. No, welcome. This is where I go through news stories from the past 24 hours and have a look at them from the perspective of prepping, which is interesting. I am still attempting to utilize this microphone. I just want to do a quick shout out to Brent on YouTube, who sent through the very obvious fact that I'm trying to increase the amount of technology that I'm using and thus failing very hard. And gave me a few pointers on this setup here. So it's a work in progress. If the sound quality is shit today, I'm going to keep working on it and hopefully we can get it better. But at the very least, the sound quality should be okay on Instagram because I'm not messing with any of that. So welcome if you're on Instagram, welcome if you're on YouTube, and hopefully one day I will get the podcast version of this up and running. All right, let's jump into it today. So first thing I want to talk about is more attacks on food and energy supplies within the Western world. And we have Oklahoma now is in the hit list. A massive explosion at a natural gas plant in Oklahoma overnight, Medford, Oklahoma, by the looks of it. There's not a whole heap of information. There was a evacuation order for this area. There was supposed to be another story on this, but I don't... Oh, here it is. Fire at another natural gas facility, Oklahoma. The sheer scale of the hybrid warfare against our food and energy system defies most people's comprehension. A fire Saturday at an Oklahoma facility that handles natural gas prompted mandatory evacuations for a wide swathe of homes and businesses near the Medford plant. So again, yet another thing within the US of A that is under attack. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but another natural gas plant that's been attacked. And Ryan, we've just started. We're about 2 minutes in. Ryan just asked how far are we in. This is the first story, Ryan. I'm talking about a natural gas plant that's gone up in flames in the US in Oklahoma. This follows on from a number of other attacks around gas, around oil facilities, especially the big one that came in Houston a couple of weeks back, which took out a liquid natural gas plant. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal if you think about what's happening in Europe at the moment. Now, they've shut off from the Russian source of gas. US has stepped in and said, yep, we're gonna fill that in. We're gonna send over liquid natural gas to you. And then fate, let's put it as fate for now, has said, not so fast, not so fast. I'm gonna set fire to your liquid natural gas and now setting fire to your gas plants, your natural gas facility. It's not pointing in a great direction. I think you will agree. Marcus, good morning to you. Good to hear from you again, man. Hope you're doing well. Wherever you are in the world. I think you're still up in the big smoke, I assume. What else is happening with fire and food? Well, a huge fire engulfs wheat farms in Russia's Rostov region. A blaze spread several hundred square meters. There have been no casualties reported, but the cause is still unclear. The amount of these stories that I'm looking at, the amount of reports that are coming from both police and from the fire investigators, which are saying the cause is unclear. I would love to go back and look at the statistics of known causes of fires in the past, because it looks like to me, maybe I'm just paying more attention to it now, but I would hazard a guess that there are more unclear, quote unquote, unclear fires happening at the moment than there have been in the past. It is cause for concern. A sane, rational human being should look at that and go, what is happening here? That's odd. But again, I just like to throw these ones in just to show you how fragile our food system really is and how under attack it is right now. It's not pointing to a good direction. I don't see any other way around it unless something magical happens in the next couple of months. But we are staring at tens, if not hundreds, of millions of human beings dying in the next 1 to 2 years with the current food supply problems that we're having, because it will take a year or two to really sink in, to really hit home. And the worst of it is the people that are going to be starving, those people in developing countries that are going to be starving because of this, won't be able to get the assistance that they probably require, because all us richer countries are going to be bitching and moaning and complaining that we can't get our favorite brand of Cocoa Pops or the right soybean milk or gluten-free bread, whatever it is. We're going to be tied up with our own little problems of convenience to help out. At least that's what I predict. And yes, I did just get out of the gym, so I was listening to heavy metal music. So my frame of mind is probably more in a negative space this morning. Deal with it. Vengeance. EU is to build a new top secret bunker. I love that this is coming out in the news, that they're going to build a top secret bunker. The European Union is spending 8 million euros, which is it's just a little bit over 8 million US dollars, to build a secure bunker in Brussels where leaders can meet in secrecy. That's when I'm thinking about like what it's going to cost to build a bunker, and an effective bunker nowadays, 8 million, to be honest, it doesn't actually sound like that much to me. This sounds more like, oh, we're just going to build a facility where we can meet up, and it can be relatively safe, more safe than an office building or something like that. So I don't know. The interesting part of this story, apart from it being a top secret bunker that's being reported on the news, was that it's coming out of Russian propaganda. So Russia is obviously looking at the EU and being very critical of what they're doing. And they're saying, hey, look at how scared these guys are. Look at what they're doing. That's nefarious. Why are they building little hidey holes underground and secretly meeting? This is not to be trusted, everyone. Usual Russian propaganda sort of stuff, but very interesting. Also coming out of Russian propaganda, so take this one with a pinch of salt because I haven't been able to corroborate it yet with any Western sources, but watch this space because there could be something here. And this one is, this goes into the broad category, I would say, of political corruption that is rife around our world at the moment. A lot of the uprisings that we're seeing at the moment are against political, either people, individuals, or against policies that are brought in. So if we think about nearly everything that's happened over the past maybe 2 years, most of the civil unrest, most of the attacks and things like that have been around or centered at our politicians. Even here in Australia, if we think about the lockdown measures that were taken and the consequent riots / protests that came out of that whole movement that came out of that was very much directed at our politicians. We think about what's happened in Sri Lanka, and especially over the past 48 hours, where they have stormed the president's compound and burnt parts of it, and the president is gone, missing. No one knows where the president is. By all reports, the president got away and has escaped and is in hiding now, but we still don't know where they are. What's happening in the Netherlands? Well, the farmers are up in arms against policies that the politicians are putting out there. What just happened in Japan? We saw the assassination of one of their former PMs. So we have a lot of unrest that's going on here, and a lot of mistrust in our officials. Why would that be? Well, let's jump over into Germany. Date rape drug scandal rocks German Chancellor's party. Berlin police have launched an investigation after at least 9 women reported feeling unwell following an invite-only event hosted by the parliamentary group of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's party on Wednesday. So, WTF? How hard is it for us to find a competent leader? It's not like we even need a leader or leaders who are total angels. They don't need to be like great people. They can have flaws and things like that. They just don't need to be like overtly, disgustingly corrupt and horrible human beings and at least like hold off on that behavior while you're in office. How does that sound? Boris Johnson chucking parties while people are in lockdown. It's this kind of insanity, this kind of separation between the leaders and the normal human beings that starts civil wars, that starts riots, that starts things like the French Revolution. And for some reason, none of our politicians at the moment are looking at history and going, maybe we should just like act cool. Like we don't even have to be like fantastic leaders or anything. We just have to not be total dirtbags for the next year or two. Is that too much to ask for? And I don't want to even start on Biden. Man, that dude's falling apart rapidly. Even here in Australia, like the hypocrisy of our leader who came out and blasted the previous PM for not rocking up when times were tough. Well, there were some tough times here in Australia recently with flooding in our largest city. And where was our PM? Can anyone remind me? Does anyone know? Because I've got no freaking clue where that dude is. Can't even remember his name half the time. Anyway, this sort of stuff popping up, this is why I put this kind of stuff up in front of people. It's not to go like, oh, look at them, they're so bad and whatever. It's just like, don't put all your faith in mummy daddy government. Don't put all your eggs in that basket. You can have some trust in the government if you wish to. I certainly am not going to. Put your faith in your own hands, in yourself, in the relationships that you develop in those people, in your family. If you develop that relationship and if you help create strong people around you as well, you help encourage self-reliant human beings around you and in your community. And I don't think we need to go much further past that. All right, what else have we got here? UN demands end to fossil fuel addiction. So what I'm seeing here is the, what would you call it? The drawing up of the lines of the latest war. The latest war is a fossil fuel war, which is not a new war because we've fought wars over fossil fuel before. But this time, it's fossil fuel thinking versus green thinking. So, yes, I would love a green world. I would love it if we could power everyone and everyone could get their needs met from some sort of sustainable and non-polluting power source. That would be fantastic. That is my dream. However, if we try and do that overnight, which the UN and the EU and a lot of other countries are really, and the US as well, are really pushing for, then we just have to realize that there's going to be consequences for that. Those consequences come in the form of not being able to create enough food, not being able to harvest enough food, not being able to get that food out and around the world. And then people starve. It comes in the form of people not being able to work the way that they should be able to work or could work, and so less productivity, and so then severe impacts economically, which then increases crime. It increases violence within a society. Statistically speaking, that is absolutely 100% true and always has been. It comes in the form of people not being able to heat or cool themselves as efficiently as we have been able to for the past years, decades, even centuries, I guess, to a certain point. And them not being able to do that and then risking dying from freezing or from heat events. So as long as we're willing to accept that level of death, which is in the hundreds of millions of people, maybe billions, as long as we're willing to all agree, go, yep, okay, well, we're all going to step up and do that and have an equal share of who may die and who may not, because it's definitely not equal. It's not these politicians who are making these decisions who are going to be the ones who are starving or watching their children starve. I can guarantee you that. It's not going to be these politicians who are making the decisions who are going to be going cold come this winter in Europe. It is definitely not them. So having them make the decisions, I think, is a very big mistake. And this demanding the end of fossil fuels, demand all you want. Look at some of the videos of what's happening in Sri Lanka. That's all I can say. I was watching the videos, some aerial footage of the storming of the president's house. And it's not like 30 people stormed. It's not like January 7 riots in the US where you had hundreds of people stormed. It's literally like a scene out of World War Z with thousands, hundreds of thousands of zombies pouring in through the gates and just tearing everything apart. It is a real eye-opener for people who don't realize what the power of a mass of human beings who are hungry and angry can truly be. And I think people should definitely start paying attention to that. All right, just jump over to Africa now. 2 mass shootings in South Africa leave 18 people dead. We had apparently 2 people come into a tavern and just open fire with both rifles and pistols. So, I always like to chuck in these active shooter events as a warning for us to all keep our eyes open, that bad things can happen anywhere, that a high threat environment is not a place, it's not a geographical location, it is a temporal event. It happens anywhere and it can happen at any time. It can happen right in your own hometown, in your city. It can happen in Link Cafe. Okay, somebody could walk in armed with guns. It could happen in the middle of the street in Nara in Japan. It can happen, somebody could drive a car down Burke Street Mall in Melbourne. It could happen in a mosque in Christchurch. Need I go on? These things happen, and it behooves all of us to be what I would just call a normal human being, a human being that pays attention to their environment, a human being who has lived iterations of this life and evolved for hundreds of thousands of years to detect threats in their environments. That's all we have to be. We just have to not actively shut down our attention when we're out in these spaces. So just do that. Keep your eyes open. French-German leaders warn populations to prepare for total cutoff of Russian gas. So that looks like it is looming, that all gas will be cut off, because they're still buying this gas. They're still buying oil, as much as they like to say that they don't. And they're also, what they're warning is like, hey, you guys are going to be cold this winter. No, they're warning the authorities, they're warning their police forces that social unrest will spike this winter. So we need to clamp down on the people. We created the problem, and then when people complain about that problem, we're going to smash them down. I hate this. But historically speaking, if we even take a cursory glance back at history and the trends that we see in history, as societies slip into a more dangerous, a more violent, a more warlike footing, then we see almost guaranteed a more authoritarian government rise. And that's the way it has always been. So this is absolutely totally predictable, that what we're going to see is our governments be more and more authoritarian and look at cracking down on the average Joe instead of actually dealing with the real problem, which they caused. Along with that too, France is nationalizing their energy very, very rapidly, and they're switching back to nuclear. They've not only got plans to, so they already own like 85% of their the energy company that is the main sway in France. They're going to take it over totally, I think, and then they're going to say build more nuclear energy and go back and pump money into refixing the old nuclear energy. So they're going down that path 100% now. They're charging down it. Germany, on the other hand, is going the exact opposite direction. So I don't know where Germany's going to get their energy from, but if you're a German at the moment, go out and stock up on wool blankets and wood right now. It's going to be a cold winter for you guys. Last thing I'll just quickly touch on is more of this flood situation that's happening in the subcontinent. Bangladesh, parts of Bangladesh are getting absolutely flooded out. People are being displaced in the thousands and the tens of thousands at the moment, and it will probably increase. Huge deluges. I've said this for years. Bangladesh is really in the firing line as far as climate effects go and climate change. And now they're starting to feel it. Now they are really starting to feel it, and they're starting to hurt from it. So they're in a pretty desperate way over there. Obviously still flooding within India, and especially up in the Kashmir region bordering Pakistan, and flooding in Pakistan as well. It is their monsoon season, so it's not to be unexpected with this, but they're feeling it hard this year in particular. Again, weather effects, I always like to point these out. These can happen to anyone, anywhere. And you need to think, what if you were one of those displaced people? What would you do if you were caught in a flood event or pushed out of your home from a flood event? grab bags, emergency bags, things like that. So right now I'm looking over here, over there, and I can see two Mountain Design duffel bags which are water resistant, and one's like my emergency grab bag, which I have a reel video up on Instagram if you want to check that out. The other one is my shelter bag, and that's got things like a tent, sleeping mats, sleeping bags, all that sort of stuff. So I've got a little mobile home set up with two duffel bags, easily thrown in the car if there was an emergency. So think about that today. Also think about food systems, think about your own food, and think about staying safe out there as well. Because I want you to be safe. And the more of this stuff we can all do, the more self-reliant human beings we become, the better off we'll be. And the more we're going to encourage other people around us to do this. This stuff is no longer, like for over a decade now, I've been called a weirdo and a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist or whatever, but you're a crazy prepper, doomsday prepper, you bunker, you're going to sit there with your beans and bullets. Now, at this time in history, people are starting to realize that this is not insane, that this is sensible planning, and that we should all do it. And that's the way we need to do, is destigmatize all this sort of prepping stuff and realize that it's just normal. In fact, you are an advantage. You are at an advantage as a human being above people who don't bother doing any of this sort of stuff. So that's what I want for you today. As always, if you've got any questions, please shoot them through. Would love to hear them. Would love to attempt to answer them. If there's any questions that you would like talked about on a SitRep, let me know. Actually put that in there. If you'd like your name to be mentioned, also let me know that, because I'm more than happy to do so. But until next time, gang, I'm going to go out to my wilderness area, to my bug out location, and cook some food right now, just for something to do. Keep prepping, keep safe, keep gardening, keep storing up food, keep your eyes open when you're out there, and until tomorrow, probably, Semper Paratus.